Hello and welcome everyone. This is the third video in a multi-part presentation on the four charters of American freedom. As discussed in the first presentation, the four charters of freedom are the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the amendments to the Constitution. In this presentation, we will discuss the second charter of freedom, which is the U.S. Constitution. So let's begin. The Constitution is made up of a preamble or an introduction, and then 7 articles. The 7 articles cover the framework of the federal government, including the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, states' rights, a provision for amending the Constitution, a pronouncement that the Constitution is the supreme overarching law of the U.S., and that the process by which the Constitution was ratified and implemented by the then 13 states making up the U.S. Each of these components of the Constitution will be summarized in the following slides. First, the preamble to the Constitution. The preamble is the introduction to the Constitution, and it says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." The key words here are "we the people." By beginning the Constitution with these 3 words, the Founding Fathers affirmatively stated that the people are giving the federal government the power to serve, and not the other way around, where the people are serving the federal government. It directly rebuts the colonists' servitude to the King of England and calls for the future leaders of the U.S. to be accountable to its citizens. Following the preamble, the first 3 articles of the Constitution provide for separate but equal branches of federal government that are designed to prevent one branch from becoming too powerful through several simple but interrelated checks and balances. The first branch of the federal government is this legislative branch, which is empowered to make the law of the land through a House of Representatives and a Senate. In order to make law, both the House and the Senate must pass identical versions of legislation, which then goes to the executive branch for signature or veto. The second branch of the federal government is the executive branch, which is empowered to enforce the law of the land. The executive branch is made up of the office of the President and Vice President. The third branch of the federal government is the judicial branch, which is empowered to interpret the law. The judicial branch is generally made up of the Supreme Court of the United States, federal courts, and state courts. The first 3 articles of the Constitution establish the federal government of the United States, which is what we just discussed. Each of these 3 branches are covered in greater detail in separate presentations that follow this presentation. This presentation is merely intended to provide only a general summary of the 3 branches. So stay tuned for additional information on the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Now let's move on to the 4th article of the Constitution, which has to do with states' rights. First, the Constitution authorizes states to create and enforce their own laws that do not conflict with federal laws. Next, the Constitution mandates that states must respect other states' rights and help other states enforce their own laws. Citizens of states are guaranteed their constitutional right, and states cannot treat citizens of another state unequally. If a citizen of one state commits a crime and flees to another state, then the state of refuge must extradite fugitives to the state demanding custody. This prevents citizens from committing crimes in one state and seeking refuge from prosecution in another state. The Constitution provides that any new states added to the then existing 13 states must be treated equally. This prevents any one state from being held at a disadvantage from or by any other state. The Constitution also provides that any territory that has not been admitted as a state is controlled only by the federal government. The Constitution also provides that public lands are controlled by the federal government as well. Examples of territories include Guam, Puerto Rico, and Virgin Islands. and examples of public lands include Bureau of Land Management Holdings, national parks, and Forest Service lands. Finally, the federal government is responsible for protecting states from foreign and domestic violence with a national defense. Now let's move on to Article 5. Article 5 provides that the Constitution is a dynamic document that can be modified and updated over time to meet the needs of an expanding and evolving country. It provides two options for amending the Constitution. Option 1 provides for amendments to be originated by Congress and then sent to the states for ratification. And Option 2 provides for states to originate an amendment to the Constitution. So Option 1 is top-down and Option 2 is bottom-up. The first option involves a 2/3 vote by both the House and Senate to pass an amendment. If the House and Senate pass an amendment, then the amendment goes to the states. If 3/4 of state legislatures, or currently 38 states, pass the amendment, then the amendment is ratified and becomes part of the Constitution. The second option involves 2/3 of states, or currently 34 states, applying to Congress for a constitutional convention. If 2/3 of states apply for a convention, then Congress calls for such a convention. At the convention, states can propose amendments to the Constitution. States then vote on the proposed amendments. And if 3/4 of states, or currently 38 states, approve the amendments, then the amendments are ratified and become part of the Constitution. Thus far, there have been 27 amendments to the Constitution, and all of which have been ratified by the first option, where Congress proposes amendments and states have voted thereafter to ratify those amendments. Article 6 provides that federal law is supreme and superior to state and local laws, and if there is a conflict, then federal law prevails as the law of the land. Further, Article 6 provides that state and federal officials must take an oath to defend the Constitution and provides an explicit provision that religion cannot be a requirement to hold public office. This article provides that every government official in the U.S. is working off the same foundational political and legal framework, and that their representation of the people is free from religious influence of any kind. Finally, Article 7 provides for the Constitution to be effective supreme law of the land after 9 of the then 13 states ratified the Constitution in 1788. One last thought. Here's a chart that summarizes the number of words the Founding Fathers devoted to each component of the Constitution. Starting with the preamble on the left and continuing through Article 7 on the far right, each of the blue bars presents the number of words in each section of the Constitution. The percentage at the top of the bars present the percentage of words in a section with respect to the total number of words in the entire Constitution. For example, Article 1, the legislative branch, has approximately 2,250 words, which represents approximately half, or 52% of the total words in the Constitution. In contrast, Article 7 contains less than 1% of the total words in the Constitution. This chart is presented to show that the Founding Fathers put the most emphasis, detail, and consideration on the legislative branch. Further, the total number of words in the Constitution is 4,365, excluding the amendments. In comparison, the length of an average newspaper article is about 1,200 words. So, the length of the Constitution is just under 4 times the length of an average newspaper article. Well, that concludes this overview of the U.S. Constitution. As previously mentioned, the Declaration of Independence was discussed in a previous presentation, and the Bill of Rights and amendments will be discussed in upcoming presentations. Further, there will be separate presentations with greater detail covering the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. So thanks for viewing this presentation, and please like and subscribe.